Hey guys, Gareth97 again. This time a review of the humongous 1/44 scale high-grade Universal Century Neo Zeong from the Gundam Unicorn OVA series. And I can't believe I got this thing to fit on screen. The first review I'm gonna have to do standing up. So for colors, we're getting a dark burgundy color for almost the entire thing. And I was kind of surprised that it didn't have the same red as the Sinanju. I would have expected it to blend in more, but it's actually quite a nice contrast. Then we have 3 different shades of gray. We have a standard gray, which we see with most of them for the joints, some of the barrels here, and a few other details. We have a light gray for the eye field generators here, the things there, and also on top of the arms here. And finally we have a more bluish gray, as you can see here on the thruster. The thruster itself is the bluish gray, and this here is the standard gray. Then we also have some white details here and there, but the only white we're actually getting as a part on the Neo Zeong itself is the white at the bottom of those fuel tanks, and then these vents here, which are also on the front skirts and on the arms. The white that you see on here at the bottom there, that's a sticker. And the white at the bottom of the arms, clicking them out, those are also stickers. And for the Neo Zeong itself, those are all the stickers you're gonna need. However, we also get one more sticker, and that is the Neo Zeong symbol. But the cool thing is, you don't have to use this sticker, because we're also getting a very nice water slide decal, and that's really awesome that they gave us the choice. So I guess for people that aren't really sure, they're maybe a bit afraid of water slide decals because, well, they might screw up, and water slide decals, they are kind of fragile for new people to the hobby, so it's cool to have the option. Oh, putting this away. And now, the way I'm gonna do this is the Sinanju. I'll feature that later on, but first of all now, let's have a look at our Neo Zeong itself. So for articulation, it's, well, as you can guess, it's gonna be a brick, but it has a bit of articulation going for it. Now, for the shoulders here, if we can call them that, the articulation they have is those side thingies here open up, and they reveal some nice inner detailing. So that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, the only reason they open up is for the halo, and that is online exclusive. So let's put that back there. Moving on to the arms, and unlike the shoulders, they actually have some more articulation. So first of all, they actually have this weird double joint going on underneath here. They have, oof, crack. So they will go forwards and backwards quite nicely, but the thing is, they actually have 2 joints to do that. They have one thing here that kind of connects the entire arm to the body, which will go forwards and backwards, and then another joint, which is the same joint the arms in the back use, which will also allow it to go forwards and backwards. So you can kind of get the one joint to the back and then swivel it forwards again to get slightly more forwards movement. But the thing is, that extra joint is quite tight, so it's not really going to work as well. So then that joint will also allow it to go in and out a little bit. You can see about that far. Let's see if I can extend it to get it out of lock mode, but as you can see, it's still going to be hindered by those shoulders. Now, if we were to remove these, it could actually go a bit further. So that's about as far as you're gonna get with this. They will rotate around all the way, and the cool thing about the arms is they bend here at one joint for about 90 degrees, but they also fold back up for stored mode when you want to put them on the back. Let's extend them again. And then here, the 5-finger barrels will also rotate around and back. And as you've already seen, the waist has a tiny bit of movement as well. Just a bit, but hey, it's there. And one piece of articulation I wasn't expecting and also doesn't really serve a lot of purpose is the front skirt. They're actually on ball joints, so we'll go up and down, in and out a bit. But really, there's no point that he's moving because those giant ass thrusters aren't gonna be moving anyways. And at first I was a bit disappointed that we couldn't move the thruster because I thought it would have been cool to have them in a few dynamic poses, like either all straight down instead of at an angle for taking off, or angle a bit more backwards or a bit more forwards maybe for decelerating. But that was before I connected them to the body. And that's when I realized that rod that we're getting here to kind of serve as support, it's, well, it's thick, but not super thick. So the thing is, these fuel tanks also serve as a support for the Neo Zeong. So it's actually a really good thing that they aren't mobile, because that thing would have been able to stand, that rod would have snapped in an instant, and our very expensive Neo Zeong would go tumbling all the way down to the ground. Now let's have a look at those arms at the back, because they're actually some really cool things. If we can get this turned around and hopefully still in shot. So they're actually really mobile. It's very easy to recreate the grabbing pose from the anime. So that's a really cool thing. I really like how articulate they are, and you can either have them like this as they were in the anime, you can have them pointing up for a bit more of an artillery feel, and also the thing is they don't really go up as much, but they do go down quite a lot, those hinges, so you can always turn them around. Unfortunately, they are a bit on the tight side, but if you want to have some over the shoulder 5-barrel cannons, you can kind of do so. And as you can see, it's really quite a difference. This is turned around. This is how they're normally going to be. It's not perfect, but it is really nice. Then you can, of course, also put them in the stored mode, and this is where that walking mechanism comes into play. Just turn them around again. And the cool thing also is they feel really nice and solid. So that click that you hear, it really clicks in there. There we go. Now the final one. And then all you gotta do is remove these 5-barrel fingers, and you can actually store them on the base if you're not using them. Right there. So you have 4 holes in there to put each one of the back hands on there. So that's once again a really cool feature. And one final thing about the arms I want to clarify is that once they're in their locked mode, they're not going to be able to bend. And that then brings us to the final feature of the Neo Zeong, and that is very reminiscent of the Dendrobium. This panel right here opens up, or should I say you can remove the panel, grab some extra pieces, and pretend that it opens up. Come on, out you come. Just be careful not to break this. There. Ah, there we go. So the unfortunate thing is, you have to put this in here. And then the flap goes on there to kind of pretend that it opens up. Now, I know this is a high grade, and even though it is quite a lot bigger than a perfect grade and a master grade, it's not going to be anywhere near that engineering. But even for a high grade, I think it would have been nice if this was an actual sliding piece or some kind of functional mechanical thing. Even high grades have big opening panels. And now the reason why you want to open this and why I said that this is reminiscent of the Dendrobium, well, you can pretend that the bazookas are gonna come out here. And this is something that I'm not gonna complain about. Nobody was gonna expect us to drag this bazooka out of here, so that's absolutely fine. And it's a really cool feature. So you can have a bazooka coming out here and also out there, because we do get two really badass rocket bazookas. Two bazookas that we did not get with the regular release of the Sinanju. So it is really awesome that we got them with the Neo Zeong, because, you know, this thing really needed extra firepower. Now the time has come for our little Sinanju to mount the Neo Zeong. The docking has almost been completed, and the reason I did it off camera is because even though it's not super difficult to get him docked with the Neo Zeong, it is a bit tricky to get the Sinanju lined up with the peg, and also a bit tricky to get these panels here reattached. The main reason is because they're already kind of at an angle, and the place you gotta attach them to is all the way here at the bottom. So it is a bit obscure and dark in there, so you're just not really gonna be able to see where you have to put it all that well. And with a camera in front of me, there's no way I would have been able to do that. Which brings me to my second point here. It is a bit unfortunate that you have to remove these panels and these panels to get the Sinanju dock with the Neo Zeong. But since it is a high grade, I guess it was kind of to be expected. Then the two final panels that we have to disassemble and reassemble are these two here, and they can either be in open mode when we use the top peg right here, and this is either when the hatch of the Neo Zeong is opened, or if he uses one of the rocket bazookas on that side, or they can be in closed mode and you simply use the middle peg with the centerpiece here. Come on, stay up. And then just close it up. Slide it down. And there we go, some extra protection for the Sinanju. Though I guess if you're going to use a beam rifle, you're probably also better off leaving it in open mode. And then there are two final things that we're getting with the Neo Zeong, and that is first of all this here, and that is a replacement for the see-through rod if you want to display the Neo Zeong without the big boosters. So I simply remove the boosters and replace the long rod with this thing. This essentially kind of hooks it up with the action base itself, because there's no way that rod is going to be able to support the Neo Zeong without those boosters. As I said, they are really important in order to keep the balance of the Neo Zeong. So if you're maybe thinking, well, I'm going to display him with only one booster pod because maybe he was shot in there or that booster pod run out of fuel sooner, it's not going to work unless you're going to get some extra support underneath here. And then the second, well, accessory, the second final accessory that we're getting is a dedicated box to put the Neo Zeong in. And it's not something I'm making up. The manual specifically tells us, hey, this box here is for when you want to take the Neo Zeong with you on a trip or something, or when you're moving. Because, yeah, I guess that is a good thought. Because when you're moving, this thing is probably going to be quite a hell to move. I mean, if you're just going to put this in a random box and you didn't have any idea how to put it or how to store it, you know, it might end up breaking. So it is a cool thought. And even if you're not going to use it to store the Neo Zeong in, it's always very usable in multiple ways. For example, an extra camera stand in case your desk isn't big enough to film the Neo Zeong. And with that said, let's rip the Neo Zeong apart and see how well he fits inside of the box. And at the same time, we can have a closer look at some of the parts. So let's rip his shoulders off first. That's already going to be quite a lot less weight. And let's see, we have some nice thrusters there. Some cute detail here. Thrusters are removable, and as I've already shown, this thing opens up and we can see the inactive halo. Because if you want that thing active, online exclusive. So let's put this on the ground for now. And then rip off some arms for even less weight. And well, as I've said, we have some of the lighter gray here. The brown is also on here, some white here. So yeah, these arms are really cool. Then off goes the top. And well, there is some really nice inner detail underneath the panel. Also really like those I-field generator thingies. Once again, some really cool detail. Here's some more I-field stuff. So overall, some nice, oof, guess I should have positioned the legs a bit better. There we go. Now it's nice and uniform. Also love the detail on the shield, which has a tiny bit of up and down movement and will also go left and right a tiny bit. And also, the first thing I thought when I saw this is that it's like some kind of, you know, tank underneath here. It would have been awesome if the arms were actually able to move. Almost done. Next up, removing his lower body, and let's rip off those fuel tanks. And the cool thing about these is that they actually have some... Took off a bit too much, so looks like these don't really... there we go. So the thing about the fuel tanks is, you're supposed to remove them here. That was not supposed to come up with it, but I guess it does make it easier to show off some cool inner detail here. So, even when the fuel tanks have been removed, there are still some good thrusters underneath there. So I really like the way these fuel tanks are made. The one kind of problem that I have noticed about some of the bigger parts of the Neo Zeong is sometimes they have a bit of a problem closing. I'm not sure if the camera's really picking it up that well, but there is quite a noticeable seam line here. And no matter how hard I pushed on it, it simply wouldn't close. And it was the same way with one of the shoulder spikes. No matter how hard I pushed, it just wouldn't close. It's not super noticeable, but it is a bit of a bummer. And now the one thing I immediately kind of thought of when I saw this was, there is a giant open space here, which would actually be perfect for another mobile suit to kind of tag along for the ride. I mean, just like this, the arms go over the head and the body isn't massive enough to obstruct a passenger. So I guess the Neo Zeong could actually serve as a great battlefield taxi. So yeah, underneath some more really sweet detail. Unfortunate thing is these don't move, but hey, once again, some really sweet detail underneath here. Really like those giant thrusters. And hey, if you would happen to lose one of these giant thrusters, not sure how you would, but you do get a spare. Or if you crack one while building it, that is what you can do with it. And then of course finally we have the base. I guess we just have to take the rod out. And also, in order to secure the rod, if it's willing to come out, there we go. There are actually some screws in here to make sure that I guess your Neo Zeong won't take off or something. Well then, let's see how well the manual tells us to store the Neo Zeong. Looks like first up, the base all the way at the back, and next to that should be the big ass thrusters. Because that's kind of compact, so far so good. Then the pipes should be here and here. Then that forms a bed for the bottom. There we go, and in there should be the Sinanju, like a nice cradle for him. Actually goes in there pretty well. There we go. You can keep your accessories on you. Then next up, the body should also be crammed in there somewhere. So let's see, that goes behind like that. But now where do all of the arms go? Oh, wait. I think I need a manual for storing all of this, because it looks like the arms should also go underneath there. Then how the hell does this work out? And jump cut because the camera fell. But at least I think I'm kind of figuring out how it should go in the box. Like I said, I really think I need a manual for this. So let's see if I put these more to the side. They go there. That goes there. I hope. Let's see. Nope, that's not really coming close to closing. Even to the back. Alright, that ought to do. And let's see. That goes like that. And then I somehow got to position the arms there. Got 4 arms left. One there, one there. Alright, 3 arms fit in there. So far, that fits, and this... close enough. Yeah, then. And well, I guess there's still plenty of room to put the Sinanju's accessories in there. And close it up. Oh yeah. Almost forgot about the spare thruster. Always gotta have your spare parts with you. Come on, lamp. Enough. And the Neo Zeong was never seen again. So, all I can do now is have a look at the Sinanju. And as you can probably already tell, this is 99% the same as the regular release. The only difference between this one that you get with the Neo Zeong and the regular release is that they swapped out the clear yellow beam effect parts for 2 awesome rocket bazookas. Unfortunately, as awesome as they are, I kind of would have liked to have the beam effect parts. Now, of course, I can understand that they wouldn't give us the beam blades for the regular beam sabers. Because, yeah, we're not really going to use those. But I really would have liked those giant big blades that would go on the tomahawks that go on the shield. Because the cool thing is, this sits behind the Sinanju, kind of sticking out on the Neo Zeong. And I think it really would have added some extra visual flair to the Neo Zeong to have those giant blades kind of sticking out. Especially because the stupid Halo is an online exclusive. So that would have kind of maybe made the pain a bit less. But so be it. Like I said, those rocket bazookas are awesome. So all in all, even though it's almost identical, it's just a little bit different. And also, these rocket bazookas are fully functional and do everything they have to do. So, they will actually go onto the beam rifle the way it's designed to. And also, it's really cool to finally have these things with a normal set, because prior to this you could only get them from DX Hobby, but now they're also released as part of the builder parts. But the thing is, these are slightly different. And also, if you're thinking about using the builder parts ones for the Neo Zeong, the thing is, you will of course be able to hold them, and the builder's parts will be able to do the same things, but you will not be able to, for example, let's see where I put it. The connection for the builder's parts ones is quite different from that of these. The barrel has a different kind of connection, so it won't be able to be put onto the storage rack of the Neo Zeong. But back to this here, one problem I've noticed is that one of the bazookas really can't hold in the ammo that's supposed to put in here. That's kind of an unfortunate thing, but you can always glue that. And then with this, you also have this extra handle here, which goes right on there, and that is so that this here pegs onto the arm, and then the holding hand will be able to hold on to this for some extra stability. Now, one unfortunate thing about the combination with the beam rifle is that when you put it on here, it is extremely heavy on the arm. Partly because, of course, you have a lot of forward weight and nothing really in the back here to balance out the rifle, making it extremely heavy. And what you also do is take this apart. Then you grab the scope of the beam rifle again. This goes to the side. You put this right, wait, a bit further. You put this through here. And you once again put this thing on there. And then it goes onto the beam rifle again. So the one good thing about this is that you do get some extra stability. You can now hold it with both hands, so you can stabilize it a bit. But as you can see, with just one hand, it's gonna be really heavy. But that doesn't mean that this thing doesn't look extremely badass. But that also means that that is the final thing that sets this set apart from the regular release. So for everyone who just wants to see the conclusion, there's going to be an annotation link right here. And for everyone else, let's see what the Neo Zeong itself is like, in case you haven't seen a review of it yet. So for colors, pretty much what you'd expect, almost entirely in red. It is the Red Comet after all. Then we have some really cool pitch black here on the feet, the arms, the chest, a few other pieces. We have gray for the hoses, most of the accessories, and some tidbits of yellow here and there. Some really nice detail. And then all of the gold you see are stickers. And oh my god, that we get a lot of stickers. And almost all of them, with the exception of those two green ones, are for the marking. So we have one for the mono. I wish you can really we difficultly see, and one that goes onto the scope of the beam rifle. Then articulation, unfortunately, it's not going to be the best in terms of articulation, but we do get some nice bits. The head goes a bit up, bit down, turns around all the way, and forwards and backwards a little bit. So as far as heads goes, this really isn't that well articulated. Then the thrusters, down, up, in and out really nicely, and will rotate around a bit as well. Then they open up, but unfortunately these don't really extend. There we go, back in there. Then the arms go forwards a bit, backwards a bit, rotate around all the way. Will rotate around below the shoulder, and then the shoulders, well, they bend at about 90 degrees. Then the hands are on ball joints and wiggle around and do everything a ball joint does. So as far as that goes, that is pretty standard. Then the waist, a bit forwards and backwards, will wiggle around and turn around and possibly detach the other hoses. But it does seem that my left hose, when you look at it from the Sinanju's perspective, is a bit on the loose side. Now then, the front skirts are molded together, but as always, they can be separated. I'll fix that later on. But the cool thing here is that the manual actually told us to separate them, and that's always a cool thing. And side skirts go up really nicely, and even the back skirts are well, they're molded together but can be separated. Same shtick as with the front skirts. So go backwards about that far and forwards about that far. So that is really sweet and is actually the polar opposite of the arms. And the legs go out about that far. We'll rotate around a bit and bend at the knee quite nicely. Then the feet go backwards nicely, forwards quite nice as well. We'll rotate around and go side to side a bit. And even the thrusters on his legs here will actually rotate around all the way. And even a little bit of detail underneath there, so that is really cool. So overall, the articulation, the odd thing is, below the waist, it's really awesome. I mean, with the front skirts and the back skirts, that's not something we usually see. The knee movement's really nice, the leg movement's really, the feet movement's really nice, but above the waist, it's kind of mediocre, really. The arms are nothing spectacular, and for a major mobile suit, yeah, maybe double joint wouldn't hurt too much, and also the head really doesn't want to move too much. But hey, at least he can do some really sweet poses. Then moving on to the accessories, but unfortunately I've already shown almost all of the functional accessories. So what we get as well is this clip here to put the shield on. Simply slides in here, will work on either arm. Simply put the shield on here, and I put the grenade launcher on here, which will also work on the beam rifle. But let's face it, when you can put a rocket launcher on there or a grenade launcher, and when you have a giant mecha that doesn't really feel the weight, I think the decision is pretty easy to make. So let's just put this on here, there we go, and give him some extra firepower. And I gotta admit, I kind of feel like buying a second Sinanju just to get a second beam rifle and also have the beam rifle combo rocket launcher on here, the rocket bazooka. And then maybe grab the builder's parts rocket bazooka and also mount that on here. Because, you know, you can never have too many rocket launchers, rocket bazookas, or just standard bazookas on a mecha. So then, what we would normally get is, of course, this beam rifle, standard beam rifle really, but then with the rocket bazookas, I don't think I've really pointed out all of the movable parts on here. So the normal handle swivels forwards really far because the way the Sinanju has to hold it, it has to be all the way like that. But the cool thing is that because the handle is so movable, it will work with pretty much any mobile suit you can think of. And also, none of the handles here has a peg. So it will work with any mobile suit, and that is what immediately caught my attention. Those bazookas look absolutely gorgeous, will work with anything. That is just badass. And you have a second handle here. Once again, really nice range of movement. So he can hold it with both hands. Unfortunately, you see it is a tiny bit on the floppy side, but so be it. Then, moving on with some other accessories. One thing I kind of forgot about were these fuel tanks, because you can't have them on there while he's in the Neo Zeong, according to the manual. I just put that on there. There we go. They are on ball joints, so they will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. And then the final functional accessory that we're getting is this clip here. Goes on to the beam rifle. This peg right there can be removed. This goes there, and you can store the beam rifle on the back. Probably not really going to work out while it's in the Neo Zeong. And finally then, we have come to the non-functional accessories. Because yeah, it still looks really nice. And actually looking at it, it's not too bad looking, because it still has that tomahawk shape, but it would have been really cool if we had the beam effect parts for it. They're also on the shield, and just like the normal ones, you can flip them around, put them here, but there just aren't any beams for it. But then again, maybe you can order the beam effect parts separately from some website that still offers that service, like Gente Kits or something like that. That might not be a bad idea. And finally, after that non-functional accessory, oh wait, you of course get 2 beam sabers, which don't do a thing. And finally, we also get some hands. We get 2 closed fist hands. And other than the left holding hand, we also get a right holding hand. So you can hold both bazookas. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And well, when we're talking about a model kit that costs 25,000 yen, it's not really a yes or no question. The thing is, first of all, do I think it's worth the money? Absolutely. Even though it's a humongous thing, and 25,000 yen is a substantial price this thing has. I was honestly expecting it to be more something in the ballpark of 30,000 yen. Looking at the price tag of the Dendrobium, looking how the Dendrobium compares to the Neo Zeong, I would even dare to say this guy is kinda cheap for a lack of better word, because I would say it's definitely worth it. It's a giant, bulky piece of awesomeness. So yes, when we look at the sheer plastic involved, when we look at all the things this thing can do, when we look at how awesome it is, and just the sheer impressiveness of it, I think it's definitely worth 25,000 yen. Now, whether or not you want to get this is a completely different question, because not only, especially if you're abroad, you're not just gonna pay the retail price of this, you're gonna pay shipping, you're gonna pay import costs, and those things are gonna stack up really, really quickly. So I think this is pretty obvious. So this is definitely a kit I can only recommend to the most die-hard Gundam fans, the most die-hard Sinanju fans, the most diehard Neo Zeong fans, because this thing is definitely gonna cut in your budget. Not to mention how many high grades you can buy for the price this monstrosity retails. However, when you look at everything, the 6 arms with 5 barreled cannons, the removable booster pods, we get a good display base, you have option parts that are only available online. You have a great base model of Sinanju, you get extra parts for the Sinanju, you get the 2 rocket bazookas, you can display them in long mode or in the short contracted mode. You get all of the normal accessories, a shame about the beam effect parts, but all of that combined definitely make this set worth its price. And I'm just gonna say it again, I was expecting this to be more expensive, and I would even go as far as to say that I might have even paid a bit more for it. If this thing was more expensive, I wouldn't have been too bummed out paying a few thousand yen more for this. And also a few of the cool things they did here. The box they give you to store it in. It's a cute little gimmick. It's just something, well, you tried. It was a fun thing to see you do that. And it does have some practical use. But at the end of the day, do not forget that this is a high grade. Don't look at the size. Don't look at the price and expect anything better than what you're getting from a high grade, just immensely bigger. Because when we look at the booster pods, for example, I'm gonna put the camera down a bit. As you can see, these parts here, they should have been gray. They're not. They're just the same part. So the thing really is that it is a high grade, something you cannot forget about. We are still talking about high grade technology. All of that said, it's still plenty worth it. And now then, finally, let's do some size comparisons. And the funny thing is, they've been here all along. It's just that they don't really stack up. I mean, look at that. A standard high grade is just a tiny bit higher than the white on the booster pod. That is significant. That is something. Like I said, this is a humongous kit. And that is perhaps another thing I gotta say. You gotta find somewhere to put this thing. Because you're paying a lot of money for this, and you know what would be a damn shame? Suddenly realizing that you don't have the space to put it, because this isn't something that you can just put in any random display case. This is humongous. This monstrosity even dwarfs perfect grades. This was one of my biggest kits I had until this. And it literally is more than twice the size when we take these spikes into consideration. And let's bring along my second kit. That is one of my biggest ones. My Monster Grade XS Gundam. And let's see if the two of them combined are actually bigger than the Neo Zeong. And as you can see, the XS, even with its tail all the way extended, let's see if I can get this out with one hand. Nope, but even like this, they're not even close to the full size of the Neo Zeong. This is truly a sight to be behold. I'm gonna just put the XS next to it like this. Even though the XS is a badass, bulky machine, which I can also totally recommend, by the way, is nothing compared to the monstrous Neo Zeong. Hell, this thing definitely didn't steal its model number. NZ999. Upside down, that makes it the number of the beast, and it's definitely quite a beast of a machine. Well, that's all for this review. I think I've said it before, it's worth the money if you can shell it out, and if you can pay for the shipping, and if you can pay for import costs. I cannot stress this enough, be careful about the import costs. Definitely keep your eye on the shipping costs, and you might want to plan in advance where you're gonna put it. Because, you know, it would be a damn shame to buy it and suddenly realize, well, I have no idea where to put it. I have a bunch of shelves, like I have walls full of shelves, but it doesn't fit in there. Well, that's all for this review, and see you guys next time. Now where the hell am I supposed to put this thing?